Imagine you're a Taoist priest and you're living by exorcism. One day, you and your experienced 17-year-old master are called to your house to expel a demon. To you, it's just another routine job. But the moment you step inside, everything changes. The whole family are possessed and even want to destroy you and your master. Sounds like I'm retelling the story of the Exorcist. But guess what? This is a real story happening in China, 2004. In late 2004, in a farming village called Fangjiagou, about 60 kilometers outside Lanzhou, a man named Liu Heng had a problem. Family illness, bad luck, stacking up, money only going out and never in, and he even calls himself as a madam something in a woman's voice, unsubstantially. In a village with one clinic and 0 psychiatrists, it gets read less as bad year and more as something followed us home. Li called several Taoist priests before, but all of them were just charlatans. So he finally came to a local ritual specialist, Liang Zonglong, a junior priest, 30-something, who, by his own later account, looked at the situation and thought, this one is above my pay grade. So he brought back up his master Xiao, 70 years old, a senior priest from the Xinlong Mountain Temple Complex, one of the real government-registered Taoist institutions in the area. Not a street corner fortune teller, an actual monastery guy. December 18th, the two priests hiked in with a native of Leeds as a guide. They had lunch with the family, nothing unusual. Liu Heng, by every account, was calm, a mild, well-liked man in a village where, per neighbors interviewed afterward, everyone described the family as ordinary and decent. Around 5 or 6 in the evening, the guide left. Only 2 priests and the family in the house. The priests set up the altar, paper, spirit money, ritual paper, candles, the standard staging for a house cleansing. They lit incense. They began invocation. And then, Liu Heng's mother, Madame Hu, started speaking in a way that reportedly recognizably hers. She announced she was a fourth madam, Si Niangyang. Her 19-year-old daughter sitting nearby, followed with an announcement of her own. She was a maid-servant. And then, this is a detail that made this story travel inside Taoist circles for 20 years. She started performing it, singing, narrating, in character, like a possessed person. Madame Hu picked up a kitchen cleaver on the altar table, set sweet tomatoes, set out as ritual offerings. She pointed at them and said, and I'm not exaggerating the report here, that tomatoes were the heads of the household's 3 family members, and they needed to be chopped up to remove the harm. Then it stopped being symbolic. It continued surviving the priest, the junior one, whose 4 accounts were centering because he's the one who lived to give it. Madame Hu's swing went for tomato called the master's arm. When he moved to shout his teacher, the 19-year-old daughter turned on him with a second blade in the house and cut his right arm. He jumped onto the heated brick bed to get distance, kicked out a window to escape, and ran for the door, which Liu Heng had, by then, locked from the inside. He went over the courtyard wall instead, caught the blade across. The leg on the way over, he made it down the mountain on foot, bleeding, and the villagers got him to Yuzhong County Hospital, where surgeons stabilized him through the night. His master didn't make it out of the house. Police and county criminal investigators arrived that night, condemned the scene, and by the following morning had tracked down and arrested Liu Heng, his mother, and his daughter. Found hiding in a nearby ravine after a night-long search involving both officers and villagers. 2 blades was recovered at the scene. Investigators confirmed the senior priest had been killed by the family. It's said in a way of chopping up. What they explicitly did not confirm Paul's reporting was a motive. They hadn't ruled out sudden psychiatric episodes, hadn't ruled out some other trigger. and floated the very report-friendly, deliberately vague phrase that the family may have acted as if possessed by ghosts, which, read charitably, is a police department declining to put mentally ill or genuinely supernaturally afflicted in official documents, and instead reaching for one phrase that covers both. We are not saying it was a ghost. We are also not saying it was a ghost. A journalism professor from Nanzhou University, interviewed for the original story, offered the more predictable academic read. Rural poverty, no literacy, limited access to mental health care, and geographic isolation as conditions under which folk superstition takes root, and occasionally cutters into violence. The highest possibility is all of them have some kind of psychiatric illness. But if you rule that out entirely, the second possibility is a collective and synchronical consciousness across the three family members, which is a very reasonable, very responsible thing for a sociologist to say on the record. And now, let's go into the possibility those officers and sociologists gave up, or at least didn't want to talk much about. The fourth madam is mentioned by Madame Hu, Liu Heng, and even the Taoist priest circle. But here's where it gets interesting, and where I want to be careful, because this is the part of the story where documented fact runs out, and regional oral tradition takes over. Gansu and the wilder Chinese northwest has a real, well-documented tradition of Niang, goddess or maiden worship, not a monolith, a whole constellation of local cults. Near Lanzhou, there is Jinhua Niang, a goddess with her own centuries-old legend, and, as of 2017, actual provincial intangible cultural heritage status. A few counties over, Xihe County runs the Qixi Qiang Niang Festival, a UNESCO adjacent government-documented tradition over 1,000 years old. This is not fringe. This is recognized folk religion with paperwork. But, and this is the part that Taoist practitioners themselves flag as actual danger, not every Niang a rural household ends up worshipping is one of the recognized ones. There is a very separate category in Chinese folk religion called Yinsi, illicit worship or improper sacrifice, shrines to things that were never sanctioned deities in the first place, animal spirits, many fox spirits, weasel spirits, hedgehog spirits, snake spirits, or the restless dead, women who die young, in childbirth, unmarried, or by suicide, and whose lingering resentment communities would build a small shrine to, not out of devotion, but out of appeasement. Please don't hurt us. He's an altar, leave us alone. This is quite common in East Asia. It's a folk religion version of a company giving a problem employee a fancy new title instead of firing them. Sometimes you don't solve the source of the trouble, you just build it an office and hope it behaves. Or worse, a false deity cloaks itself in the guise of a true god, stealing all the worship for itself. Sometimes these two animals bleed into one. It begins with ancestors who offer sacrifice to a malevolent entity out of sheer terror. But as generations pass, the dark history fades, and the descendants mistake the lingering evil for the righteous deity. The practical danger, as Taoist formula commentary around this exact case describe it. And I want to flag clearly, this is folklore interpretation, not police funding, is that a family can genuinely believe they are worshipping a orthodox goddess while actually feeling something that was never one. As local oral tradition around this case has it, the fourth maiden was understood as one of the set of mountain goddesses tied to Jianjing Mountain and nearby area. It is said that the fourth maiden is the fourth daughter of the Queen Mother of the West. She was bored by heaven and came to Jianjing Mountain in private and became the local guardian goddess, and finally got the entitled guardian. 简金山有感四大元君保明菩萨, the bodhisattva of people's protection, the first primordial goddess of mountain Jianjing. If you are familiar with Chinese history, this is obviously just a local replicate, because this title has both the style of Taoism, Yuanjun, and Buddhism, Pusa, which will never be seen as Santan on an official god. And in official history of Taoism, the first daughter of the Queen Mother of the West had never left heaven or become some kind of god. So, who is the first madam? I don't know, but if you search her on the internet, you can still see people trying to add her into the official rank in this modern age. For example, gives her the nickname Zijun Pusa, but which actually refers to Guanyin Bodhisattva, or ranks her in the 8 official gods of Dingxi, but you could not see her in the official list. So, when the family was yelling First Madam, what were they really worshipping to? If you've seen the 2022 Taiwanese horror movie Incantation, the one that went semi-viral worldwide for its cross-viewer marketing gimmick, the whole plot hinges on a family worshipping a deity they believe is a real, benevolent Buddhist figure, the Great Black Buddha Mother, 大黑佛母, when it's actually something else, entirely wording the name like a castrum. That film is fiction, but it's fiction built directly on top of a real anxiety in Chinese folk religion, that you can pray correctly, sincerely, every day to the one thing, and never know it until it's too late. And also don't watch this movie if you're religious. Trust me, don't ask why. Versus as what happens in Fangjiagou, nobody, not the police, not the priests, not the professor, can actually tell you that's not a cop-up. That's honest state of evidence. So, trying 2 years after that, where did everyone end up? The senior priest Xiao, dead at the scene. He was 70. It's worth stopping on him for a second, because the story usually gets told as a horror beat, and he becomes a prop in someone else's ending. He wasn't. He was a career priest, decades into a job that mostly looks like paperwork with incense. And the one time, it stopped looking like that. He didn't run. The reporting is consistent on this much. When the route turned, his students' first instinct was to protect him, not the other way around, which tells you something about 70 years of who is usually doing the protecting. He went to the house because his students asked for help, and he thought he could give it. That's the whole job, underneath incense and folklore. He died doing it. The junior priest survived, physically. His public comment afterward, given the day after that attack, was short. He'd helped with the rituals for other people many times before. This was unlike anything he'd experienced, and he said plainly he had no plans to perform this kind of work again. Liu Heng, his mother, Madame Hu, and his daughter were arrested within about 12 hours, but what happened to them after that? Trial outcome? Sentencing? Anything? That doesn't show up on China judicial process information online. The National Court Records database was being processed about that. That database wasn't actually built until 2015, over a decade after this case. A high volume of pre-2015 cases across the entire country simply aren't digitalized here, regardless of what happened in court. So, ghosts or grief? Possession or an undiagnosed family psychiatric break in a place with no psychiatrist within reach. I'm not going to pretend I can adjudicate that from a desk on the other side of the country 20 years later. And honestly, anyone who tells you they can educate it with total confidence is selling something. A ghost story or diagnosis, take your pick. What I keep coming back to is tomatoes. 3 tomatoes on an altar, and a woman who, for however long that night lasted, generally saw 3 human heads. That's not really a story about demons. It's about a story about how seeing the line between symbol and reality when a mind, for whatever reason, spiritual or clinical, stops being able to tell them apart. And if that unsettles you a little more than a haunted house would, I think that's the correct reaction. Haunted houses are somebody else's problem. This one could, in theory, happen at your own kitchen table. Thank you for watching, and subscribe for more bizarre and interesting China. But I have to say, when I was writing the script about the fourth madden, the temperature in my room was actually strangely coming down, and I broke out in a cold sweat. We both know how hard this summer is. I'm not exaggerating. I will not put this at the end. So I guess next time I should not badmouth Scott, no matter it is authentic or fake.